Hey, what's up boys? Pitch here. Those of you in my Discord will know that I'm not very well this week. Trying to gear up for 3.15 as best as possible, and I'm getting asked a question: what do the patch notes mean for the CI aura stacking carrion golem build that I've been maintaining now for the past 2 leagues? So I've trolled through the patch notes, and I've picked out everything that's going to affect that particular build. 3.15, I'm not planning on running that build. I'm planning on running a different build, which you're all welcome to follow along with me. It's going to be in a different format, so I'm not going to be putting out the end build directly at the beginning of the league. I'm actually going to put out a starter to get to maps, and then you're welcome to play along with me and see which direction I take the build. I have my plans for it. Obviously at the moment I'm unable to get my hands on an updated POE, so I can't run the numbers with all the changes, but I'm still hoping it's going to be viable. You know, join the Discord, follow along, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be really regular updates to this build, as in a build diary. So let's see where we go with that. It should be a lot of fun. Now let's look at the changes that have happened or that are happening to the Golem build if any of you are planning on playing it in 3.15. So some general notes here to go over. The base character evasion rating has been lowered to 15, so pretty much almost a quarter of the amount that it previously was. And you don't gain evasion rating per level. This isn't great because Valgrace obviously impacts that, Determination impacts that, and our Flask also impacts that as well, which helps us get to 95% evasion. Unsure what the end number is going to be until we can POB it. So, but that definitely affects us. Game-wide poison does 50% more damage. That doesn't affect us so much on CI, but it is worth noting because it is a 30% increase in poison damage, and it's combined physical and chaos. So physical damage reduction, which we are going to take a hit on, that's going to affect it. Consecrated ground effect no longer grants 100% increased critical strike chance. So I mean, that's no fun. Battled Faith was quite a decent DPS chunk increase for the build, and this has nerfed it significantly. Fortify, now they've made some significant changes to Fortify, but no mention as to whether the buff granted by the Kingmaker is affected by those nerfs. So time will tell, but we could, or you could, get affected by this this Fortify nerf if using the Kingmaker, which you should be. The Soul of Garakan Pantheon. You no longer get 6% increased movement speed. Well, that's a shame, because we all like Zoom Zoom, and the build was very good at Zoom Zoom, so that sucks. Tier 4 Ashling Crafts. It will now remove a random modifier. This is insane. Like, they take away Harvest because it was too deterministic. They add in this and they slate it as the new deterministic way of crafting, and now they've gutted that as well. I mean, to get to the point where you actually use Ashling and then brick your item, it's soul destroying. This is, I mean, that's going to affect all builds. In fact, most of this is going to affect all builds. So, you know, this isn't a bash on, oh, look at them focusing on minions again. They're actually not. I think they've actually been okay with minions this league, and Necro certainly didn't get a hit. These are the changes that are coming directly to the Carrion Golem build. Dread Banner. We're looking at the skills now. Dread Banner. So you now have half of the increased Fortify effect that you had. That has been halved on top of whatever happens to the Fortify buff here. So time will tell just how useful that is. Focus, which we use in the end game or in the min-max version to give us shock. It has a base cooldown of 8 seconds, which was previously 12. This is no problem at all. The whole problem with having, the whole thing about having focus on the ring was just 1 damage boost, and you would usually use it just for Cyrus. Everything else died instantly. Cyrus might take a second or 2, so just pop focus. So we're not using it all the time, we're just using it on 1, maybe 2 bosses, so that doesn't affect us, but it's in the build. Brutality got hit, and it's quite decent. I mean, all of these reservation multipliers are going to add up. Really have no idea, like I've said, until we can get in POB, but these are going to add up. You'll notice that every single one of them has got this, and I think it's going to suck. Supportive skills now deal About 2/3 of what they did deal. So about a 2/3 reduction there in damage. And Awaken Brutality, well, I mean, just straight up removing that sucks. And then the same, about a third reduction there in power. Damage on full life, not too bad. It's about the same, like a third again, less damage. And this is going to end up being multiplicative. So you're going to feel this once you add them on top of each other. Generosity, this one isn't too bad also. You used to be able to get the +1 level of supported aura skills earlier, but now you actually have to level the gem up to level 5, so it's not too bad. You would just use normal generosity until you can afford to buy a level 5, or just level 1 up gradually. That's no big deal, but it did get hit. Impale, some of you were still using Impale because you couldn't scale your Dread Banner up high enough in the previous league, so quite a big change here. So your skills, or your carrying golem is going to have 20% more chance to impale, which is good. So that means the enemy will be getting impaled earlier in your build. But they now have pretty much half of the increased impale effect, which massively sucks. It no longer has supported skills deal 5 to 15% more physical damage. That's a straight loss of 15% physical damage. And it no longer has impale damage dealt to enemies impaled by supported skills overwhelm, so you don't get the overwhelm. And again, that's big because if the enemy does have physical damage reduction, you used to be able to just plow right through that, and now you can't, so they're going to put up more of a fight. Maim, this one could hurt because this 140% reservation multiplier, which is an extra 25% of what it was. Remember, we linked this with Flesh and Stone, so that is going to increase the mana cost of Flesh and Stone. And this could hurt because anyone who played my build last league, you'll know how tight it was on mana res. Supported skills now deal 10 to 19, so again, almost half damage there taken. Enemies maimed now take 10% increased physical damage, so a little bit of a nerf there as well. So maim, heavily hit. And that's going to have effects on Flesh and Stone as well. Melee physical damage has been hit hard. 10% less attack speed is massive. With carrying golems, you want them to be attacking as much as possible, and you can either scale for more DPS, you could scale attack speed, or straight up minion damage, and this one takes 10%, that's pretty much 10% DPS just wiped off. Quality no longer grants a chance to intimidate, that's big as well. Intimidate, as you'll know if you ticket in POB or unticket in POB, that's quite a significant DPS chunk, and that's just straight up deleted. So that got hit pretty damn hard. Minion damage, this one sucks a little bit. Now they do get the damage, but that has been taken maybe a third off that. But then your minions are going to have 25% less maximum life. This isn't a big issue for the golems, I must say, especially if if you're building the build that from 313 or 314, because of the auras. It's extremely rare that a golem would ever die. Extremely rare. So 25% less max life, I don't think you're going to feel it that much. They're quite tanky, and with all the auras affecting them, even more so. It does depend on not just this 25% max life, but then how much armor, how much evasion, how much has Fortify been nerfed on them as well. So all of these things were keeping your golems alive. So you had your 95% evasion, they were protected by Grace, they were protected by Determination, and they were protected by Fortify as well. So all of those nerfs on top of this nerf may be significant. We're not going to know until you play it. Same thing with the Awaken minion damage. Multi-strike. Supported skills now deal 30 to 20% less attack damage. Previously 20 to... Right, okay, so another 33% damage reduction there. And can now support melee totem skills. We don't care. Awakened multi-strike. So support skills are... increased attack speed. Yep, so they've removed the 10% increased attack speed. So again, another straight up 10% wipes off the DPS. First repeat now deals 22%, so a little bit more there. A little bit more damage on the repeats, but he giveth, but he's taken away. Supported skills now deal 25% less attack damage. Previously 10%, so 15% less attack damage. So these slightly inflated numbers on the repetitions, it doesn't matter. That is a big nerf. Flasks. Now we get onto survivability, and this could be huge. I've no idea what numbers that build is going to be able to reach in 3.15. I will know later in the week, but I don't know right now. Granite Flask. They've halved the base armor on the Granite Flask. Granite Flask it's mandatory for that build, because this is where you scale all of your armor from. You don't have armor in the build whatsoever. And this with determination, or divergent determination, and the additional armor increases from other flasks, which we're going to get to, that gave you most of your physical damage reduction. So they've halved that. I'm not sure what that number will scale to. Jade Flask, same thing with evasion rating. We were running around with 95% evasion. I have no idea if we're going to be able to hit 95% evasion, because they've just halved the base. Plus, if you remember, we're not getting base character evasion rating now per level, and we start with a quarter of what we did. So that could be quite devastating. More so than the skills, because let's face it, the Golem build could take quite a big hit on the DPS side. But nobody wants to be running around dying all the time. That's just no fun. Stibnite Flask no longer grants 100% increased evasion rating. It now grants 20% more evasion rating. Right. That's big. That's really, really big. So that goes hand in hand with this Jade Flask nerf here, and it now consumes more charges. And here is the Basalt Flask here. It doesn't give you that 15% flat additional physical damage reduction, which is massive, and 20% of melee fizz reflected. It now gives you 20% more armor and taunts enemies near you. You're really not bothered about taunting enemies. You'd rather have your minions doing that for you, and now you only get 20% more armor. Yikes. Then we move on to the immunities. It no longer grants immunity to chill and freeze. That is nasty. Now, there may be something that we can do with the Enkindling Orb, so that every time you do get frozen, it automatically pops this flask. Unsure yet at this point, but if this turns out to be a huge thing, then we're going to have to find ways to get ailment immunity. If you are running the Alpha's Howl, you get immunity to freeze and chill, so that's great. It's only when you swap out at like min-max end game that you're gonna feel this. So not huge in the early stages and well into mapping, but at end game, we're gonna have to find a way to mitigate that. Immunity to curses during flask effect, same thing there. I don't know whether we can use an Enkindling just to pop that, and yeah, to pop that when you do get cursed to wipe it. I don't know. Time will tell. Staunching, same thing. Did use Staunching for Corrupted Blood because we do get Bone Armor. So that removes bleed, and it used to remove Corrupted Blood. Last league though, people were I didn't use it last league, but last league people were reporting that it wasn't actually removing Corrupted Blood, that the changes that they made to the way Corrupted Blood worked, they hadn't moved that onto Bone Armor. So we actually were running, or you were running a Staunching Flask at some point, up until the point where you just got so powerful that Corrupted Blood didn't even matter. So this could prove to be problematic. Experimenters, all of my flasks were experimenters to give that increased duration. You don't have to pop your flasks as much. And now that has been reduced by a quarter, the duration on the experimenters. Bottled Faith, we touched on this earlier, so it no longer has this flat increase to the critical strike chance against enemies. That is such a big DPS, that increase. It now has 100 to 150% increased critical strike chance against this could be a massive DPS reduction. Okay, and the very last thing that I'm going to go over before I pass out is the Flesh and Stone Mana enchant. Now, when I've been theory crafting my builds for 3.15, I've always assumed that that was going to get reduced to 20%, and they haven't touched it. so that's actually a pretty good thing for you guys. That one is still going to be the best enchant for the build. And on top of that, there are quite a few positives that have come out of this. Necromancer did not get touched in the Ascendancy reworks or the Ascendancy nerfs. And also Golems, Carrion Golems didn't get touched either. So, you know, not directly. They've obviously been touched, but every build has been massively affected. So if every build gets reduced by 50%, it's still an S tier build. It's whether this survivability forces the build to now go in a different direction. Really not sure. So that is the overview of the patch notes in regards to the CI Aura Stacking Carrion Golem build. I hope you guys found that useful. If you did, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot of content coming in 3.15. Peace out, guys. See you in the next one.